Hello, and welcome to The Season, the podcast from FYC It that goes behind the scenes of awards season. I'm your host, Ryland Aldrich, creator of the FYC It app. Today we've got a fantastic interview with two of my favorite people in awards world. Delphine Figueras, the general manager of American Society of Cinematographers, and her husband, Stephen Pizzello, the editor-in-chief of American Cinematographer magazine. I had a lot of fun chatting with them about ASC's massive role in awards season, so please stick around for that. Before we get to Delphine and Stephen, here are some headlines from around the circuit. Nominees have been announced for the Casting Society's Artios Awards, or at least all the Artios other than the film side of things. So that includes TV, streaming, and theater. Netflix topped the nomination charts with 17 total noms, followed by HBO with 6, and Prime Video, Apple TV Plus, and FX with 5 each. Awards shows and awards-focused festivals continue to announce tributes and honorees. It was announced Rory Kennedy will receive the Pennebaker Award at the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. Ralph Fiennes will receive Santa Barbara International Film Festival's Performer of the Year honor for his role in Conclave. And it was also announced that Francis Ford Coppola will receive the AFI Life Achievement Award. In screenings news, Paramount has started adding screenings for Better Man, Universal has launched screenings for Wicked, and Disney has started adding screenings for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. Amazon MGM added 6 screenings for Unstoppable, but the film with the most screenings added over the last week was Gladiator 2 with 16. As always, be sure to check the FYC It app for the latest updates as we are adding screenings each and every day. If you're an awards voter and not yet using FYC It, head over to fycit.app to download the app for free and stay on top of all the screenings and events as award season heats up. Without further ado, let's get to today's conversation with Delphine Figueras and Stephen Pizzello. Our guests today are Delphine Figueras, the general manager of the American Society of Cinematographers and also the founder of Industry Insiders, a production company that shepherds various peer-to-peer interview series during award season, and Stephen Pizzello, the editor-in-chief of American Cinematographer magazine. These two bring both professional expertise and personal partnership to their work. As a married couple, they play key roles in the ASC's mission, Stephen through curating the magazine's influential coverage, and Delphine by overseeing business operations and producing the organization's high-profile events. From the ASC Awards to initiatives like Clubhouse Conversations, the pair have worked together to cement the ASC as a major force on the award circuit. Together, they combine editorial vision and organizational strategy, fostering industry relationships and elevating the craft of cinematography during award season. So Delphine, Stephen, how's your season?
Busy?
Well, it's chaos as usual for me. I have an inbox stuffed with coverage pitches, screening notices, and event invitations from studios, publicists, cinematographers, agents, and anyone else who thinks they may have an award-worthy project coming over the next couple of months. And on November 12th, I'm flying to Poland for the Camerimage Cinematography Festival. I mean, my wife's even busier than me, so I also have to make sure our 2 younger sons make it to school every day and do their homework before they start hopping into the PlayStation with their friends. So as Zorba the Greek would say, it's a full catastrophe from my perspective.
You two are our first co-guests we featured on the season. As I mentioned, you are also married. How much do your roles at ASC intersect on a day-to-day basis?
I am in a department, and since she supervises all of the different departments, we do have to interact fairly frequently, but we can have formal meetings at the clubhouse or informal meetings in our kitchen in the morning, which happens just about every day. We have a meeting while we're making toast. And, and then at the ASC, it's full staff, or we have breakout meetings. So we interact quite a bit, but we've made it through about 25 years of interacting at the ASC. So it seems to be a good partnership so far.
I don't know if our jobs, especially with the producing of the Clubhouse Conversations and all the events, oftentimes it's more about just keeping in touch with what's going on with the magazine. How does that affect what's happening on the society side? Just having a thumb on what each other's up to and what each department is up to and how they interact with each other and how that, there's cross promotion there and such.
Well, it also extends like beyond work hours because we go to a lot of events together. And it used to be that she was always my plus one, but now with her new job, I'm her plus one sometimes. So we get invited to lots of stuff, and it's a very busy season. It's all in all the time.
Yeah, this is really getting into that busy part of the season. Stephen, you mentioned a little bit about what this is like for you, but Delphine, I assume you're busy booking Clubhouse Conversations?
Yeah, it's definitely very busy. We have a lot of live Clubhouse Conversations bookings. Then we have the virtual ones. So it's cinematographers interviewing other, their peers. The brilliant thing about it is that it's peer-to-peer and you get this amazing conversation out of it. The hard part is it's peer-to-peer. And so you are actively asking working professionals to find time to research the projects, watch the films, do all the homework involved.
And then align their schedules.
Exactly. But it comes together. We had a
really good one the other day. Just the other day, Denis Villeneuve and Greg Fraser came to the Clubhouse to talk about Dune Part 2. It was packed. It was a great conversation.
Yeah, these Clubhouse Conversations are really a major stop on the Cinematography Awards trail. Was that the idea from the series inception? How has that evolved?
It actually wasn't. I have to give a shout out to Rachel Aberly, actually. The conversations were originally, and they still are, it was an educational program that we were doing at the Clubhouse in person. And at the time they were called Coffee and Conversation, actually. And we would just have ASC members being interviewed. Usually it was actually a magazine representative. And they would talk about their career, essentially. And then at one point, I think Rachel came to me and said, would you ever consider maybe interviewing people who are, have projects out during award season? And then we did that for a couple, I think like 2 years, it kind of was doing it that way. And then COVID hit. And I called all the publicists in town and I said, it was right before Emmy season. And I said, are you guys campaigning? Do you know what's happening? Do you know what you're going to do? And they said, we don't know what's going to happen. So we're moving forward as usual, but we also have absolutely no way of holding an event. So we're not really sure what we can do. But what we know we need to get engagement with the different members of different organizations. We need to find a way to promote and put a spotlight on our creative talent. And we want to get word out about the projects that, that are award worthy. So a lot of phone calls, a lot of emails with various studio publicists, personal publicists, and then our team at the ASC, and basically said, how can we do this? And we came up with this idea like, well, if we do by Zoom and, and then we said, okay, the magazine staff is going to be super busy getting stuff done with magazine things. So we enlisted members to help moderate, and it just took off. And by the end of that first Emmy season, I called everybody and said, okay, how did you feel about this? And they were like, oh my God, this has to be a thing. Like, you have to continue doing this. And can you do this industry wide? So it actually led to a few other interview series that now Alex Beatty and I co-produce also.
So the format pairs a cinematographer who has a film in the current year's awards race with another, usually cinematographer, to sit down and talk about the craft. What's it like making those pairings?
Sometimes it's based on availability. I got to be honest. Other times it's really trying to find, that's when the institutional knowledge comes in handy. Who knows whom, maybe who mentored somebody, who's worked with somebody before. Other times it's just, somebody admires somebody else. And the thing that I think has been amazing about it gave this opportunity for existing ASC members to meet new cinematographers that they'd never met before and really build relationships.
She does a very good job of pairing people according to their tastes in films. Like, if you know that somebody likes a certain type of genre or a certain type of film, those pairings are always interesting. And one of the most interesting was, I don't know if you want to tell them about Coda, what happened with Coda. That was one of the most inspired pairings ever.
Oh, yeah. One of our members, Levi Isaacs, I knew, he had told me years ago that his first language was sign language because both his parents were deaf. And so when we were going to be doing this interview for Coda, I called Levy and asked him to do it. And so he was able to talk about it, not just from the visual point of view of being an accomplished cinematographer, but also having that really deep connection with what it means to be a Coda. And it made for a really beautiful episode. And that's the part that I love, right? I mean, I know everybody has their awards hopes. And, I think that's the perspective coming at it from publicists and what have you. But from my point of view, this is an opportunity to highlight the craft.
Not to malign what I do, but some of these people are far more qualified than I am to talk to their peers about certain aspects of what they do. I mean, they've been on the sets. They have a greater depth of day-to-day knowledge, maybe. One thing I like about the series is that it's always fun to see world-class filmmakers be excited about who's interviewing them. Like people have gotten really excited when it's Caleb Deschanel. Caleb's doing interview. Wow. So that's always a treat.
For sure.
Stephen, I believe you hosted one of these yourself, didn't you?
Well, I was called into emergency duty, I guess, like when we were doing a Clubhouse conversation about The Offer. The Godfather is my favorite film, and I was very close friends with Gordon Willis while he was still alive. So Michael Goy was actually doing that Clubhouse, but I was drafted into duty at the last minute to supply some additional Godfather lore, I guess. And but I found out about this 10 minutes before the episode started while I was about to take a shower in the bathroom, and I had to just sort of rush out there in my bathrobe and change clothes really quickly. But it turned out to be really fun.
Yeah. So Stephen, American Cinematographer definitely has a big role to play in award season, but is this time of the year busier than normal, or is it a pretty set schedule year round?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy because, like I said, it starts earlier and earlier every year, it seems, that people start pitching. Award season is not for the faint-hearted because there's a lot of money at stake. And there are filmmakers whose reputations are on the line. And there's a lot of pressure to get it right with the projects we cover in American Cinematographer. And the people who pitch us start doing that earlier and earlier every year. In terms of the magazine's contributions to the conversation during award season, we take our coverage strategies seriously. I mean, we have editorial meetings every week. We have in-depth conversations about every significant project that hits our radar. And the best way for studios, publicists, and even cinematographers to give their projects a boost is to invite the magazine's editors to the earliest screenings possible. It's like if we see high quality work on the screen, it makes it much easier for us to make an early decision on coverage. Otherwise, we might be prognosticating based on the reputations of the filmmakers or the trailers or just buzz that we've heard. And I know that some studios are wary of inviting press too early, but American Cinematographer doesn't publish reviews. We honor embargo requests, and we don't jump the gun by leaking our personal opinions online. So I guess that's why it's always been known as the filmmaker's friend, because we focus on the art form rather than reviews, gossip, or critical evaluations of the work.
Right. It's a pretty incredible opportunity to champion films and cinematographers. Is it ever tough to decide what you want to feature and what just can't make the cut?
Well, there's always a lot of jostling from studios and filmmakers who want editorial space in the print magazine during the award season window. And it puts me in a very tricky position. I mean, I hear from a lot of our own ASC members about projects they'd like to have covered when Academy voting is underway, but there are only so many slots in the magazine, so tact and diplomacy become critical. I also try to accommodate studios and publicists to the best of my ability because we try to be partners with them instead of adversaries. I mean, ultimately, the common goal is to shine a spotlight on projects with artistic merit, and the magazine's core purpose is to explain how those projects were accomplished.
Yeah, how early are you getting a look at some of these movies?
Sometimes it's months and months in advance. It depends on the studio and how comfortable they are. Like some of the studios know me really well because I've been doing this for 3 decades. And so they trust me. They'll invite me in before even people who've worked on the movie have seen it sometimes. Because, usually in our normal cycle, we need to be pitched about 3 to 4 months in advance of a given issue date. But during award season, it can be up to 5 or 6 months in advance because the slots just fly really quickly. They get gobbled up fast.
Last year, you featured El Condi on one of your covers, of course, shot by Ed Lachman. That was a relatively small film, but it went on to score both ASC nom and Oscar noms. How influential do you see these editorial decisions?
Ed seems to think that we had a lot to do with it because he promised to take me out for sushi at some point after that, all of that positive response. But, I just saw that movie and artistically it blew me away. It was just such an unbelievably shot film. I just felt like we have to do this. It needs a spotlight.
I'm just going to give a shout out to my husband here because he is so knowledgeable, and that curatorial eye, it does have an impact, I think, on nominations and what have you. The magazine is over 100 years old. It's like the oldest magazine on filmmaking. And It's so well respected. You know, the people who are covered in it, they're always so excited. What it means to be a cinematographer who gets covered for the very first time in American Cinematographer magazine, for them, it's life-changing.
This job can be a grind, but when you hear that level of respect, it definitely gives you some momentum. It puts the wind back in your sails. I mean, you know, I've heard from people like James Cameron and Paul Thomas Anderson, oh, that magazine was our film school. When you hear that, it blows you away. I mean, these are two of my favorite guys, and they actually said that. I was like, oh my God.
So another major initiative you're both intimately involved with is the ASC Awards. Stephen, you've been a writer and producer for the awards, and Delphine, you have written, produced, and even co-hosted the show. What hats are you each wearing for this year's awards?
Well, I'm safely out of the fray because after 5 years of serving as sort of head writer with Delphine and our managing editor, Andrew Fish, pitching in, it was just too much to juggle with kids and everything else. So Delphine is still co-producing with Patty Armacost, and she has a hand in the writing, along with Matt Oswald, Patton's brother, who sort of took over the writing duties from me. I just said, look, it's running this magazine is enough. But you know, you never know what the ASC is going to pull you in to do. I've cut the lifetime achievement reels. I've written the script, and I've rehearsed scenes with Jason Schwartzman for the show. It's like you just find yourself in these positions you never expected. I mean, it was a lot of fun, but ultimately it was just too much combined with my regular duties. But I don't know how my wife does it still, but when she was on stage, I was motivated because I thought I could give her good material. We know each other, and it was fun sitting there watching to see if your joke would land with Brad Pitt or somebody. It's like just sitting there and watching their faces in the audience, and God, I hope he doesn't get offended with this joke, or God, I hope this one gets a laugh, or So I got a little taste of that kind of like Hollywood writing. It was really fun.
How's it coming along this year, Delphine?
It's coming along great. Yeah, Steve's role this year is like my
cheerleader,
resident therapist. No, it's coming along well. We just announced our slate of honorees, so that's pretty exciting. We have Andrei Barkoviak, ASC, is getting the Lifetime Achievement Award. Michael Goy, ASC, is receiving the Career Achievement in Television Award. Johnny Simmons, ASC, is getting the President's Award, which is an award in service to the organization. We have a Technical Achievement Award that's going to Pete Romano, who created the underwater housing for camera systems, Hydroflex. And Joan Churchill, ASC, is receiving the ASC Lifetime Award in Documentary Filmmaking. That's the first time we're giving this award out. Anyway, we got a lot of honorees. It's going to be good. People are already approaching about, we've got the call for entries are out. We've got the music video and documentary awards are due on October 31st. Then we have TV submissions due coming up in November, TV and film.
So it sounds like a lot of that planning is already taking shape, but what is the sort of calendar like from an admin perspective for the awards? When do you really start working on like the writing of the show and all the different elements?
I mean, literally the planning of the award show starts the week after the previous one ended, right? You're taking notes the whole season and the whole time of like what works, what doesn't work, where you need to course correct for next time. Again, we have an amazing leader. We've got a phenomenal president at the ASC, Shelley Johnson. He's spectacular to work with. Our awards chairman, Chuck Minsky, ASC. So when you have really good leaders at the helm, it's amazing. It makes for a fun experience too. Our host again this year is Ed Helms. So he did it last year, and he's going to do it again this year.
And we've heard over the years that our award show has its own unique, special vibe, and people seem to really enjoy it. I mean, we go at it sometimes with a little bit more lighthearted touch, but I think it's unique from the other award shows in the way it's presented.
Delphine, did you enjoy hosting? Might we see you up there on stage again sometime soon?
I don't know if you'll see me back on stage again. Look, it was fun to be on stage with an ASC member. I did it. The first year was with Julio Macat, and then the next year was Johnny Simmons. And then after that, for 3 years in a row, was Maddie Libatique, and I did it.
They had chemistry that everybody enjoyed. Those two. It was like, the Laurel and Hardy of the cinematography niche, I was always astounded at her ability to just hop up there in front of people like Barbara Streisand or Angelina Jolie or Chris Nolan or whoever was sitting in the audience and just be not super stressed out or intimidated by the whole thing. I mean, she has an unbelievable capacity to just hop up there and do it. And one of the best memories I have is one year Angelina Jolie was sitting next to Roger Deakins and his wife, James. And she leaned over to the Deakinses and said, like, who is that girl up on stage? Like, she's really good. I said, oh, that's Delphine. And who's Delphine? I said, oh, she works at the office. She what? She works. That was one of my all-time favorite memories.
I want to shift gears a little bit and talk for a bit about the Camerimage Festival. This is a film festival in Poland that annually attracts the most important names in the cinematography world. I looked into actually going one year and realized just how difficult it is to get to Torun. Stephen, I know you're a longtime attendee. Can you talk about why this festival is so important to cinematographers, given even its remote location?
Well, festivals like TIFF, Venice, New York, and Camerimage are all stops on the route for the award season train. It's sort of like the old political whistle stop tour. Those showcases can generate meaningful groundswells of buzz, and the reactions can make or break a project in the awards race. I mean, the studios all fight for those screening slots, and the responses from audiences and critics are crucial. And Camerimage being timed where it is, like on the calendar, is pretty important for cinematographers because the cream of the crop goes there. It's amazing who they get to make that tough journey you're talking about. I mean, I think Cate Blanchett is supposed to be there this year. They've had like world-class filmmakers from all over Europe and the States and everywhere else fly in for this event. And I think it started because everybody heard what a great time it was. It's been building up for about 30 years or more. And it's just, oh, Camerimage, you have to go. It's crazy. And it's like, it's true. It's like they treat everybody who shows up like a true VIP. I think cinematographers who go are afforded the kind of treatment that's usually reserved for, say, like directors or people like that. They are the stars at that festival. And so, they really know how to treat their guests. The parties last until 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning. And just to have your film screened there, it does create a timely buzz at that time. You come out of Camerimage in, mid to late November, which is when everybody's starting to think about how they're going to vote. And a strong showing there can definitely give you a boost.
So you'll be going again this year, as you mentioned. Anything that you're getting roped into doing to help out of the festival?
We always throw a magazine party that's sponsored by Lights, which is a division of Leica that handles all the lenses. And so we have a nice little place called the Coffee and Whiskey House in the middle of Torun, where we have an intimate cocktail party for friends of the magazine, filmmakers. It's always a great time. A couple of years ago, we started collaborating with our colleagues across the Atlantic, the British Society of Cinematographers, on an ASC BSc joint party sponsored by Netflix that happens the very next night. And that's turned into, I think, one of the most popular stops during the festival. It's a great space. They have it in a really nice hotel. And it draws really like the world's top cinematographers are there and other filmmakers. It's a great party. I mean, it's a bonding experience for everybody in the cinematography niche. I've met some of my best friends there. It's a real life experience that I would recommend wholeheartedly to anybody who enjoys festivals or cinematography. It's a great event.
So we like to end all of our interviews with a lightning round of questions. You can just give a quick answer on these. Are you guys up for that?
Sure.
All right. So what is your favorite award show to attend?
I'm actually a homebody. So Steve probably goes to more award shows than I do.
I've had a good time at the Spirit Awards. That one's really fun, and it's a little less formal, and it's indies, which I always support. So that one's been really fun. I mean, I've been to the Oscars, and that's always great. If you can get to the Oscars, I highly recommend the experience. It's a cultural phenomenon, and it lives up to the billing. It's really great. But if you want to have a more casual experience, the Spirits are always fun.
Do you prefer Emmy season or Oscar season?
I think Emmy season's a little easier for me personally. I guess it's because I feel a little bit more pressure during Academy season. Academy season is fun, but it's kind of like all in 24/7 life cycle.
Yeah, I think on the producing side of it, I can definitely say that Emmy season's a lot easier, and I prefer it in that just from workload point of view.
What is your favorite film festival to attend?
For me, it's kind of a toss-up between Camerimage and Sundance. I still really like Sundance, and I know they're considering a move, but the vibe there, and we also do events there as well. I don't know, the thing to me about film festivals is you get to see things early that you might never have otherwise seen. Those two are probably my favorites.
So we are on the board of the Mallorca Film Festival, so I'm going to have to give a shout out to the Mallorca Film Festival. It's a lot of fun.
We went last year and we had a blast at that festival. It's not a cinematography festival per se. It's a film festival, but they have a cinematography focus now. It's quite scenic, and it was a lovely experience.
What is your favorite past app at an awards event?
Past appetizer. I mean, I don't know. Sometimes they go with the theme of the event, but it's probably like, since I'm half Polish, it might be pierogi. Like when I go to Poland, they have a lot of piles of pierogi laying around, and sort of like when you have a dream, and in your dream, you're just presented with piles of things that you love to eat. Like I always think of that plate of pierogi.
Delphine?
Favorite past appetizer? I mean, I like a good tuna tartare.
Oh, yeah. Tuna tartare is good.
Crispy
deviled
rice.
egg, a little deviled egg.
Yeah, deviled egg. I'll always gravitate towards it. There's probably like not enough deviled eggs out there, I think, on past appetizers.
At an award show, do you prefer theater or table seating?
Oh, table.
I would say table too, for sure.
Would you be more likely to cry or swear during an acceptance speech?
I don't really cry, so I would guess some ill-timed profanity would be my answer.
I can guarantee you Steve would be cursing.
Delphine, what about you?
I'd probably cry.
What is your post-award season ritual?
Spicy margaritas?
We might take a trip with the kids or something.
Do you have a least favorite award speech cliche?
I don't like the laundry lists. I know you have to thank your collaborators, but I don't know if that's the appropriate place for it. Like, I always admire people who come up with a creative approach and they work past the laundry list and say something heartfelt or something about the project or something, share a bit of wisdom. I prefer that. I don't like the laundry list.
I really hate when somebody gets up and has not prepared a speech and then they just go on way too long.
The deer in the headlights speech, where they just forget that there's a timer running. I mean, I've seen speeches go as long as 45 minutes. That's no joke. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's like, go be a guest on a podcast.
Okay, final question. What is one unreasonably early awards season prediction that you're willing to make?
I don't know if I have any predictions. I wouldn't want to get myself in trouble, right? I produce way too many of these kinds of I wouldn't want anybody to be like, oh.
I think it's safe for me to assess a different category other than cinematography. And if I had to make a prediction, I'd say Mikey Madison in Nora is definitely going to get a nomination. That was an unbelievable performance that she gave. And she definitely put herself on the map. I was completely entertained by her performance in that movie. So that would be my early bandwagon prediction.
Delphine Figueras and Stephen Pizzello, thank you so much for joining us on the season.
Oh, you're welcome. It was a pleasure.
Thanks, Ryland.
We're back, and I'm here with our FYC at field agent, Tony Miros. Tony is our go-to FYC event junkie, reporting from the awards circuit with the inside scoop. Before we hear what Tony has been up to this week, we need to extend an extra special FYC congratulations to Tony for receiving not one, but 2 Artios nominations for his role in casting Squid Game: The Challenge and also The Great Christmas Light Fight. So Tony, wow, how are you feeling?
I totally forgot that nominations were coming out. And when they came out, somebody tagged me and said, congratulations. I'm like, on what? So I went and I saw, and it wasn't only just 1, but it was 2. And I was like, wow, that's pretty, I impressed myself there. When people say it's an honor to be nominated, that's really all you can say, because I mean, you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to win this thing, but thank you. That's really nice, because you never hear that. Nobody ever tells you did a good job.
Importantly, those 2 nominations are in 2 different categories, so I don't know.
They are. My chances got better. That would have been weird if I was competing against myself. It would have been. But yeah, the one is reality series competition, and the other one is reality series structured and unstructured. So we'll see. And I had done those a while ago. My friend said to me, wasn't Squid Game before? And I go, yeah, but what happened is it came out right as we were voting for Artios, so it couldn't qualify. So there it is. So I'm happy, and congratulations to everybody else who was nominated. And it's going to be a great awards season, and we're going to have a great time in February when these awards take place at the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills.
That's awesome. So Tony, what did you get up to this last week? And did anyone recognize you as an Artios nominee when you were out at the events?
What's that? No, nobody. But somebody showed me the Hollywood Reporter, and my name's in the Hollywood Reporter. I'm like, wow, that's a big deal. I feel it's a big deal. No, nobody recognized me, but it was lots of fun. I told you last week I wanted to get into that Maria FYC with Angelina Jolie, and I just couldn't make it. So I'm hoping that there's another Maria screening coming up soon. But this week I went to the season finale screening of Hulu's Only Murders in the Building, which was really fun. It was at the Silver Screen Theater at the Pacific Design Center in West Hollywood. We watched the finale episode, and then afterwards we had this great Q&A with Martin Short and Selena Gomez and Jane Lynch and Richard Kind and the showrunner John Hoffman. We were laughing our heads off. They are so funny in person. And what's funny to watch with Selena Gomez? Apparently, Richard Kind, the whole time they were filming, she couldn't look at him because he was making her crack up all the time. So while they were on stage, when he would say something just completely out there, she would just start cracking up. And it was the funniest. She's like, I can't look at him. I just can't look at him because it's too funny. And Jane Lynch, she's so wonderful. She's the murder victim this year. But she goes, you know what? When they told me I was the body, she goes, I was so honored because you know what? Even if I'm not in the scene, they're talking about me. They talk about me the whole time. I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. They do talk about her the whole time. So she's like, yeah, it's great to be the body because everybody's always talking about your character. So there, if you want to be on Only Murders in the Building, I suggest you be the dead body.
You mentioned there was a nice reception there at the PDC after.
Yeah, it was really nice. I mean, they use the outside, the hallway, the lobby, and then they used the outside where we entered. So they had a bar outside and inside. It was really nice, and they had tons of hors d'oeuvres they were going. But it was so funny because my friend was like, "What is that little glass with the white stuff in it?" I go, "I don't know." So we had to ask the waiter. It was a milkshake, but it was a little too watery to be a milkshake. I was like, well, it needs to be a little thicker. I don't know. This is kind of like watered down. I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying you need a little oomph. If next time you serve me a milkshake, make sure it has a little oomph to it.
The Tony tips never stop. What else did you get to?
I always love going to the Academy Museum. I got to go to the great Lillian Hall screening for HBO at the Ted Mann Theater. That's the smaller theater inside on the bottom level. It's not the one in the big sphere. That's the David Geffen. But the Ted Mann Theater is nice. It's very intimate, although all the seats are green. It's freaky. It's like walking into Kermit the Frog's theater. It's so freaky. But Jessica Lange was there, and so was the director, Michael Christopher, and they had a packed house. We had a great Q&A with them. She teased the audience about a new project that she's working on with Michael that they're collaborating on about the legendary movie star Marlene Dietrich in her older years. So that should be fun. I'm looking forward to that. But then there was a nice reception at Fanny's, the restaurant in the lobby of the Academy Museum. 2 full buffets, chicken pot pies, pasta. And then they had past hors d'oeuvres and desserts, yummy desserts like mini apple pie thingies, and pumpkin cheesecake. Okay, Ryland, pumpkin cheesecake. I gotta tell you, was really good. I didn't think it was going to be good, but pumpkin cheesecake is really good.
Sounds delicious. Got to make it to Fanny's.
You got to make it to Fanny's. But honestly, I love that space because it's so wide and open, and it's a museum. So, but it's also very intimate at the same time. The one funny story about that evening, and I'll tell it to you quickly, is that Jessica actually came to the reception. She wasn't talking to anybody, but she was there. And at one point we were sitting there eating, and all of a sudden this crowd just started applauding for no apparent reason. I was like, what are they applauding for? They were taking the poor woman to the restroom, and they applauded while she walked past. So Jessica Lange can't even go to the restroom without getting applause. It's the funniest thing ever. But she is amazing. She's awesome in this. So I highly recommend that you go see it.
That's great. So what's the next week look like for you?
So next week, I'm going to go see a screening of The Last Showgirl with Pamela Anderson. And it's a smaller film, but it is being distributed by Roadside, and it's directed by Gia Coppola, who's Francis Ford's, is it niece or granddaughter? What is she?
I think the granddaughter, yeah.
She's the granddaughter. So this should be an interesting watch, and I'm looking forward to seeing what Pam has to say about her performance in it.
That's great, Tony. Looking forward to hearing all about that next week. And congrats, of course, once again on the 2 Artios nominations. Thanks, as always, to Tony Miros, our FYC at field agent, and a huge thanks to Delphine Figueras and Stephen Pizzello for the great chat. We'd love to hear what you think about the season. You can leave us a review on your podcast app or drop us a line at podcast@fycit.app. If you enjoyed today's episode, please tell a friend. And don't forget to follow us on social media at FYCIT app. You can also visit us at fycit.app to sign up for our newsletter, download the FYC It app, and stay up to date on everything happening this awards season. Thank you again for listening. Join us next week for another episode of The Season as we dive deeper into the stories behind the awards. Until then, remember, at FYC It, awards season starts here.